waving their country's flag, demanding the U.S. let them in.
We know how many people there are. We'll basically give them a number rather than allowing them to come all at once and overload the system.
Benjamin Netanyahu unveiling a massive pile of evidence showing Iran lied about their nuke program.
We're going to have to do a serious change here to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons.
It's been 1 year, and apparently she isn't sorry anymore.
By the way, I take the apology back. I'm not holding back on this family.
VA hospitals are under fire yet again. Photos of a dirty room where a veteran was sent for treatment going viral.
I've been dealing with the VA for about 10 years. This was pretty disturbing. Service seems to be getting worse.
But then also with the big hit comes people that aren't so happy as well. If you say that you're a supporter of Donald Trump. Or...
Oh, yeah, people are mad about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't give a
Yeah, we take that road a lot, and believe me, everyone's traveling on that road, and I'm talking about 6th Avenue.
It served you well.
Americas.
It served you well, Brian.
Well, look who came down that road today. It is Tom Homan, the acting director of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. Got a big announcement, just came out. You're retiring.
Yeah, the secretary made an announcement yesterday. I made the announcement last night at the award ceremony. I'm going to take an opportunity after 35 years in law enforcement and spend some more time with my family. They deserve it.
You had to be convinced, Steve, and go another year, right? You had planned on going out a year earlier, I heard.
Actually, I did. I retired January 27th, and at the end of my retirement ceremony, I was in the hallway with my wife, shaking hands with people leaving the ceremony, and I got a call from John Kelly, secretary then, American hero in his own right, saying, the president would like you to stay and run the agency.
You can't
Wait a minute,
say no
I'm
to that,
leaving.
can you?
Yeah, exactly what I said.
It happened at your retirement
It
ceremony?
was after my retirement ceremony. He called, and matter of fact, the first words out of his mouth were, I know this is bad timing, but the president would like you to stay and run the agency, and in all due respect, said, hey, I need to talk to my family about this, but he said, okay, I'll call you up Monday morning. And here's what the thought he left me with. He said, before you hang up, he goes, I want you to think about this. The president of the United States is asking you, a career law enforcement civil servant, to serve your country a little bit longer. Have a great weekend.
Oh, wow.
So,
The guilt trip.
So look, I already had something set up in the private sector with a lot more money I make now, but if I'm nothing, I'm a patriot. The president of the United States asked me to serve. He's a great president. He's doing the right thing for this country, so I want to come back and help him.
Tom, let me ask about this. There have been rumors that maybe you weren't getting along with the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen.
I heard that. That's not true. Kirstjen Nielsen is, she's a patriot in her own right. She's serving her nation, and she's been very supportive of me and the men and women of ICE. During the whole budget negotiation, the omnibus bill, I had daily conversations. She was fighting for resources, fighting for money. So no, I'm leaving for the right reasons, to spend more time with my wife and kids who've sacrificed as much as I have in the last 34 years.
Where are you from? Where do they live?
I live in the D.C. area, but I'm originally from upstate New York. I'm a native New Yorker, despite what Governor Cuomo thinks. I love the state of New York.
Right. I heard about that. He said he doesn't have his papers together, so we'll hope he can follow up on that as a civilian. Let's talk about the caravan we've been tracking for the last 2.5 weeks. It started with 1,500 people. Now they're down to about 200, 250, and they're asking, waving the Honduran flag in many cases, sitting on top of the fence in other cases, knocking on the door in other cases, asking to be let in as refugees. What's your answer to that?
I think it's an attack on the sovereignty of this nation. Look, do I think some of these people have a credible fear case? Do some of these folks, are they escaping fear and persecution? Yes, some are. But I also know that many aren't. Many are taking advantage of a system with loopholes in it. And it's just not my thought after 34 years. If you look at how many get a positive, credible fear finding during the initial interview, which they're coached what to say. But when they show up in immigration court, if they show up in immigration court, the judges find very few. I think the last numbers I looked at, between 30 and 40% actually would have a credible fear finding, which means all the rest are,
made up.
Yeah.
They see the attraction of America. I get it. But we just can't open up our doors to everyone. Our system's not supposed to, we have to have a country.
No, I can't blame anybody for wanting to be a part of the greatest country on earth. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. You can't want to be a part of the greatest country on earth and not respect its laws.
Sure.
You can't have it both ways. Not under this president, which I think is the right thing.
Well, and Mexico offered them asylum, from what I understand, correct? Weren't they coming up from Central America? They enter into Mexico. Mexico says, you can stay here, we'll offer you asylum. So why are they continuing to come to our country? They can't really plead the case that they're in danger anymore because Mexico's allowed them to stay there.
Excellent point that a lot of people don't want to talk about, right? We don't have tens of thousands of citizens of Mexico asking for asylum in the United States. These people have been in Mexico for several weeks now. Right? So apparently it isn't that bad. They didn't try to come to the United States right away, try to enter illegally because they're in fear for their lives. Again, I want to be clear. I think some may have a good case, but many don't. But that's, if they're really escaping Guatemala, Honduras, and they're in Mexico, is it about escaping fear and persecution, or is it about getting to the United States?
Right. And let me ask you, are they more important than Syrians, Yemenis, from Danes, or Czech Republic? I mean, there's other people in line doing it the right way.
Exactly, and when you have, for that population of folks, or that population that's taking advantage of the system and committing some sort of fraud, there are people in this world that really need to come to this country. They really are escaping fear and persecution, and when you clog this system up, you're delaying people that really need our help.
But you, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, you're changing the rules. Under this president, you're changing the rules. The migrants have been lawyered up, but now that they're here, on our southern border, those who are being allowed to apply for asylum, they got to stay there. You're not going to let them back into the country in general. They're going to have to wait until they get their hearing. And then the 11 who jumped the fence because they didn't want to wait, they've been arrested. And it's not catch and release this time.
They're changing some things, but, one thing we got to remember is this president hasn't changed an awful lot. This president is simply saying you will enforce the laws on the books, which we haven't been allowed to do in a long, long time. I often say that, people ask me all the time about this president and the way he's attacking immigration enforcement. And I've said it, look, I've worked for 6 presidents. I was hired under Ronald Reagan. I've worked for 6 different presidents. None of them has done more than Donald Trump has for border security and law enforcement. This president done more for us than any president, and I've worked for 6 of them. I respect all of them. But no one's done more for border security and public safety and law enforcement than this president.
I want you to hear the counter side. I told you a lot of these caravanners have, most of them from Honduras, have lawyers. Here's the lawyer complaining about the system, and they're not budging. Listen.
The message for Customs and Border Protection: stop rejecting asylum seekers who try to present themselves at the port of entry. You know what you're doing. You know you turn people away. You complain that they are breaking the law by entering illegally. You are breaking the law, and you are forcing them to break the law. That's why we have caravans.
You agree with that logic?
No. Look, we're a sovereign country. We have a right to decide who comes in this country and how they come in. We are following the laws. And we're not going to do it in their time frame. We're going to do it in the government's time frame. Make sure we know who these people are. Make sure they're vetted properly. Make sure they have a claim to come to this United States, a credible fear claim. So, no, we're playing by the rules. That's what you keep hearing, the rule of law, the rule of law, the rule of law. I hear this all the time. We follow the rule of law. And that's why I had an issue with Governor Cuomo last week when he wants to call out the ICE officers, calling them, saying they're breaking the law, they're violating the Constitution. No, they're enforcing the law. If you don't like what we do, then tell Congress to change the laws. But the 20,000 men and women of ICE, who I love dearly, every one of them come to work every day. They strap a gun to their hip, leave the safety and security of their homes to defend this nation. So how dare politicians like this governor and other politicians call them cowards, call them Nazis and racists? They're enforcing the laws enacted by Congress. They're doing their sworn oath. They're American heroes, and they need to be identified as such.
Tom, you're from, you said, originally New York. The governor here and Bill de Blasio, our mayor, they want to make this a sanctuary city. They want to protect these illegals. They care more about the illegals, some people say, than they do the legals. Look what's happening in California. You see cities are breaking away now. They're siding with you and not their governor. You see on the front lines what these people are really like, what the story is. You have a heart for them, I understand. But tell the American public what you see, and what's your message to the Democrats that want to support these illegals versus the legals?
There's a right way and wrong way to come to this country. We need to do it the legal way. For people who are standing in line for 5, 6 years, it's not fair to them to try to follow the laws of this country when people break the law. Sanctuary cities, I'm glad I got a few. I want to be clear to your viewers on the dangers of sanctuary cities. There's those politicians say sanctuary cities protect the immigrant community. There's 4 reasons why that is completely opposite of reality. Number one, a sanctuary city, when you knowingly release a public safety threat back into the public, that is a danger to the community. When you're an illegal alien in the county jail and you get released, you're going to go back to the immigrant community where you live because that's where you're victimized. So sanctuary cities put the immigrant community at greater risk of crime because that's where the criminal alien's going to go back to. Second of all, they say that sanctuary cities protect immigrant communities again. No, what sanctuary cities does is if I can't arrest a bad guy in a county jail, which means I'm in the county jail arresting the bad guy, they release him. My job is to go locate him and arrest him, which means I'm going into that community or that place of business where I'm going to find him and probably others that weren't even on my radar. So what have sanctuary city policies done? They put the immigrant community at greater risk of crime. They put them at greater risk of ICE arrest. They put my officers at great risk. Rather than taking custody of a public safety threat inside the county jail where we know we don't have weapons, now we're knocking on the door. And it's a matter of time. And it, you know, every night before I go to bed, I pray for the men and women at ICE they get home safe because one of these days we'll knock on the wrong door of somebody we shouldn't have knocked on the door because we should have got them to county jail. So it's a public safety threat. It's an officer safety threat. It puts the immigrant community at greater risk of immigration arrest. It bankrolls criminal organizations. Sanctuary cities are enticement. Alien smuggling organizations in Central America and all over the world are using that as an enticement. Look, we'll get you to Los Angeles for this much money. Right. You can even get arrested and they're not going to work with ICE. And lastly, I'll throw this out because there's no answer to this from politicians that want to push sanctuary city policies. Go to the immigrant community. Ask them, would you rather have ICE agents in your neighborhood or in the county jail? What do you think they're going to say? Immigrant communities, if you're here illegally, you violate law. Right. That's not good. However, despite them violating law and being here illegally, most of them are family people. They want to live a safe, secure life, and they're pretty much law-abiding other than the illegal entry. They don't want child predators in their neighborhoods either.
You know, you made it so simple to understand. That's one of the reasons people love you, because you're a straight talker and you got common sense. And that's one of the reasons why you just got the award for the National Law Enforcement Leader of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's the biggest honor of my life because, you know, I got the President's Rank Award, great honor, but to be recognized by federal law enforcement officers from all over the country, getting recognized by one of your own, who's actually carried the badge and gun. Yeah. Last night was the greatest honor in my career.
But you're not done yet. Will you indicate what you're doing next?
I can't, but I want to make one thing clear. I'm staying in the fight. Like I said, I tried to retire a year and a half ago. I come back. I wanted to retire earlier this year, but I wanted to finish the California lawsuit. I just finished my deposition on that, a long, uncomfortable deposition, but we're going to win this. And, you know, again, last week, I wanted to announce something last week, then your governor upset me, so I want to stay and I'm going to fight that. I'm not leaving tomorrow, right. But I'm not going to abandon the men and women of ICE. They're American heroes. I'm going to fight for them, and when I go to the outside, I'm going to keep fighting for them. Yep. When you're a government employee, you have certain rules, what you can say, what you can do. As a civilian,
do whatever you want.
I can say more about what I need to say.
Tom, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hopefully you can still be a resource for us.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Real pleasure. All right. Meanwhile, still more show to go. A key Senate race is in a dead heat. Democrat Claire McCaskill neck and neck with her Republican challenger, Attorney General of Missouri, Josh Hawley. He will join us next.
And look who's in our green room. It's the former Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, and the man who killed Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill, 7 years ago today.
I got American faith.
Put the Missouri Senate race now in a dead heat between the Democrat incumbent, Senator Claire McCaskill, and likely GOP opponent, Missouri Attorney General Josh Hawley. The latest Real Clear average is this. It's less than 2 points. And joining us right now is Missouri AG and candidate for U.S. Senate seat, Josh Hawley himself. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, first, McCaskill's got 2 terms. She had 12 years in a state that's been pretty red. Yeah. How's she done it? What would you do different?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, she has voted with Chuck Schumer almost 90% of the time. She does not represent the people of Missouri. I mean, just get this. She won't secure the border. She won't stop the offshoring of American jobs. She's voted to make health care more expensive. She's voted to raise taxes over 200 times. I mean, that tells you all you need to know.
Todd Haken ran against him, somewhat of a flawed candidate last time. They thought that was going to be a layup. That was going to go to Republicans. So right now, you're neck and neck. What's going to put you over the top? What would your message be?
My message is we can do do much better. We need someone who is going to support and speak for the people of Missouri, who's going to support our values, who's going to speak for our needs. Claire McCaskill votes with her party, with Chuck Schumer, almost 90% of the time. She's been a partisan liberal Democrat. That's not what Missouri wants. It's not what Missouri needs.
So when you talk about this president, not everything he's done has gotten Republicans excited. Where do you separate yourself from the president on any issue?
Well, look, I'm delighted to have the president's support. He endorsed me back in November. He won Missouri by 19 points, and there's a reason for that. He understands what the Missouri middle class is facing. He understands that we need more jobs, we need better jobs, we need to end offshoring, we need to protect the border. He's right about all those things. I'll be with him on those things. Claire McCaskill's not.
Right. Let's take a look at something else. One on your agenda is not Claire McCaskill's. It's Google and Facebook. You see a trend happening here and you don't like it.
Yeah, well, what I see is these major companies, Google, the most powerful corporation in the world, collecting more data, more private, confidential information on us than any other company in history. I want to know what they're doing with it. Facebook, same deal. I want to know, what are they doing with all that user information? Who are they giving it to? You know, they boasted that during the 2012 campaign, they shared it with the Obama campaign, Facebook did. I want to know why. What did they give to the Obama campaign?
Turns out that Twitter, though, also, you dealt with Cambridge Analytica, sold some information, too.
You know, all these companies, here's the deal. Are they telling consumers what they're collecting on us, number one? Are they telling consumers who they're selling it to? Are they telling consumers what exactly is happening to their information? I want the facts, and I'm going to find out.
It's going to be hard to hold the House, and some say the Republicans could expand their lead in the Senate. If that's going to happen, it's going to happen with you, Josh. Thanks so much. Congratulations.
Thank you so
on
much.
your early success. Meanwhile, straight ahead, 7 years ago today, America celebrated the death of the most wanted terrorist in the world, Osama bin Laden. Rob O'Neill, SEAL Team 6, next.
First, the day that Osama bin Laden's life came to an end.
Bin Laden shot dead in this $1 million mansion inside Pakistan.
Confirmed. Urgent confirmed. Bin Laden is dead.
Osama bin Laden is dead.
Multiple sources. Osama bin Laden is dead.
And the day that he found out that story about the 72 virgins waiting for him on the other side was bunk. He's dead.
The world's most wanted man.
Bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
The leader of Al-Qaeda.
Shot in Pakistan.
Shot in the face. Dead and buried at sea.
Is dead.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden. We can say to those families who have lost loved ones to Al-Qaeda's terror, justice has been done.
Seven years ago today, Navy SEALs raided the compound of Osama bin Laden and killed him in an operation that took under an hour. So how far have we come in the fight against terror since then? Let's talk to the Navy SEAL who was there that night, who killed Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill, author of the book, The Operator, which is now out in paperback. Rob, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
You know, I have seen that montage a couple of times before, but I still get goosebumps.
That was an incredible night. The montage is great, with Geraldo talking about it, and I remember watching from Afghanistan with a lot of reporters trying to confirm it. They're going to their sources, and they actually did confirm bin Laden was dead before the president even came out on the red carpets and said, you know, tonight I can tell the American people and the world the United States conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
And you were watching Geraldo on TV, and bin Laden was at your feet.
They
in a
were
body
still,
bag.
the powers that be and the law enforcement, the three-letter agencies were doing DNA tests, taking the photos that apparently I think need to be released. And we were having breakfast and we're watching, actually Fox News was on, and we're watching it. When he said Osama bin Laden, I looked at Osama bin Laden, and it was a very surreal night. You know, how did a kid from Montana who could barely swim become a Navy SEAL and end up right here at this moment? And it was just an awesome night. Such an honor at first even to be part of that incredible team. Right. To include everyone, the pilots and the aircrew and the Rangers and the intel analysts that found bin Laden. Just an honor to be asked to be a part of it.
Sure. Well, I've seen the movie. I've read your books. I know that things went right, some things went wrong, but ultimately you were in that stairwell And it could have been any of those men who took the shot.
Well, it should have been, and we even sort of joked about what was going to happen. Is bin Laden going to get in some emergency ladder or slide and end up in the alley, and then someone outside with the machine gun is going to get him? And we would joke about it. It was never going to be me. I mean, I was never going to be a part of the mission. He was a ghost. And just to get to that spot delivered by the pilots, like I said, and to get into that position in the last room because of my teammates in front of me. And I remember watching them in the house just so brave. They knew the house should blow up around them at any moment, but they just kept their tactics, escalating the force, slow as smooth, smooth as fast. And then I was just proud of them. And then all of a sudden I'm in a spot where I turn a corner after I saw pretty much the bravest act of heroism I've ever seen when the appointment jumped on the suicide bombers. I turned the right based on the way he went, and there was bin Laden standing there about 3 feet away. And it was just, I saw him, I recognized him, that's his nose, he's not surrendering, he's a threat, he's a suicide bomber, he needs to be addressed as such, that's why I needed to shoot him in the head.
And you didn't even think you were going to come out alive?
No, we thought we were going to die, and it was so many emotions. At first it was focus, not fear, because we accepted it, we said goodbye to our kids. Then it was pride, I'm so proud of my guys, and then at the end there's like 1 or 2 rooms left. We got to go in there. He's going to blow himself up. And it wasn't bravery on my part. It might have been on the point man's part, but for me it was, I'm tired of thinking about it. Let's get it over with. I'm going to get in there.
So you load up a bunch of stuff, a bunch of garbage bags full of intel, computer disks, all sorts of videos, stuff. You're in the chop, you're flying home. What's going through your head 7 years ago today?
7 years ago today, if we can fly for 90 minutes, we get 50 years. And then it starts to sink in. We might live. I might get to see my family again. And when we're flying back, the pilots, again, doing an incredible job. No one's talking, but we're all looking at our watches, and we get to a point where it's almost like Miracle on Ice. When the Americans meet the Russians, you can hear them counting down, and the pilot came over the radio and said, all right, guys, for the first time in your lives, you're going to be happy to hear this. Welcome to Afghanistan.
Right.
And that's when you realize we pulled it off.
You know, there is a story you have told me. I don't know that you wrote about it in your book. I don't know that you've ever told this in public, but you were so positive you were going to die. You were out shopping with your girls, and you thought, you know what, I need a pair of sunglasses, and I'm going to buy the most expensive pair I could.
I saw a pair of Prada sunglasses that were on sale for $240, and I remember thinking, I'm a chief in the Navy, I cannot afford these sunglasses, but I am going to be dead next week, and American Express can afford them. So I put the card down, and I just thought it was cool. And I ended up carrying those sunglasses into bin Laden's bedroom because I figured, what if we live the night, but we can't get a helicopter? We steal a car, drive to Islamabad where there are embassies. I'm going to need sunglasses. So I had them in my pocket the night I went into his room.
As you reflect the last 7 years, how do you put it all into perspective?
It's almost to the point where I know the story, but there's no way that happened. I mean, we obviously went and did it, and the intel, they obviously found them, and we were able to bring intelligence back and prosecute more targets based on what we found. We found out bin Laden was running al-Qaeda from there. But now it's just, you know, life is what happens around you while you're planning. I never planned that. I should still be in the Navy. I was going to retire at 30 and smoke cigars in Coronado on the beach and then go to McPee's and tell war stories.
And now you're just wearing those sunglasses and driving around
They're
town.
under lock and key.
When people see you in an airport or out on the street, what do they say to you?
A lot of thank yous. I ran into someone, I was here in New York yesterday in a grocery store, and he just said, he mentioned he lost a loved one, and now his uncle has cancer from 9/11. Just thank you, and they don't bother me. Occasionally, you know, they'll want to pay for a beer or something like that, but it's overwhelmingly positive. In person, it's always positive.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your service.
My pleasure. It's an honor.
Rob O'Neill, his life story is in paperback right now. It's called The Operator, and you sure are.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, coming up on this Tuesday, a big Republican Senate debate tonight in West Virginia. What do the voters want to hear? Todd's having breakfast with West Virginia friends. You'll hear from that. And former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice joins us live on the couch. Come on in, you're next.
Man, what a picture perfect postcard this would make of America. It's a high school prom, it's a Springsteen song, it's a ride in a Chevrolet. It's a man on the moon.
Under a very bad deal to get a nuclear arsenal. They shouldn't get it. So I'm very glad, I have to tell you, that President Trump has stood so firmly and so clearly on this issue. This deal was a terrible deal. It should have never been concluded. There needs to be a change right now.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on our show 90 minutes ago talking about the presentation he gave yesterday outlining Iran's nuclear weapons program that ended in 2003 but was much more extensive than anybody knew.
I wish we had somebody here who could analyze this Oh, look who's here. It's Condoleezza Rice,
What a
former
lineup
Secretary of
today.
State
Welcome.
under George W. Bush. She's got a brand new book out. It's called Political Risk. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But, Ms. Rice, what did you think of his presentation yesterday?
Well, I haven't read the entire dossier, but I think it just confirms and reconfirms what we've known, which is that the Iranians were lying about their nuclear weapons program for decades. It says to me that the 2015 nuclear deal, the real issue is verification. When you know that you have a country that has lied repeatedly, obviously,
why trust them?
Why trust them now? And so my concern about the nuclear deal had been the verification regime. If anything, this just makes it even more clear that you can't have a verification regime that gives the Iranians weeks to clean up a site before you can go and
That's
see
a
it.
good point. We haven't even talked about the verification, but a couple of things. This is a few years old now. They got a lot of stuff up front, $1.9 billion, some frozen, some just fees. They have got released from almost all their sanctions. The investment hasn't poured in yet. And if we pull out now, is it a different calculus because they got so much already?
Well, I actually think if we pull out now, it's not going to be the disaster that everybody's talking about. I would not have signed this deal. I don't think it was a very good deal. I think we were in a hurry to get a deal, and we left a lot on the table. And as you said, they got a lot up front. The allies love this deal, and I certainly hope that in their meeting with President Trump that Macron and Merkel talked about ways to improve the deal if we're going to stay in it. But if we get out of this deal, it's going to be just fine. The Iranians, I think, will try and stay in because they do want that investment eventually to start flowing. And by the way, the reason the investment isn't flowing is we still have sanctions on Iran because of terrorism. And that makes companies very wary of going into Iran and finding out all of a sudden that actually they were funding the IRGC.
We had no idea.
Right, exactly.
So it sounds like you're in favor of pulling out of the deal.
Well, I think I would have probably stayed in for alliance management purposes, but I have no argument if
We're
the
giving them
president,
money and they're lying
if the
to us,
president
right.
decides to pull out of the deal,
Sure.
I have no argument with that.
Secretary, you know, people, the analysts on television, the pundits said when Donald Trump was referring to Kim Jong-un as a little rocket man, he's going to get us into a shooting war with North Korea. Fast forward to today, it looks like we are on the verge of something impressive.
Well, possibly, although I will say the North Koreans have a tendency to do this. When they're under pressure, they come to the table, they make promises, and then they break the promises. I think I was the last Secretary of State to actually negotiate with the father. So we have to be careful. But you have to give the administration a lot of credit for having turned up the heat on China by saying to the Chinese, look, we will defend the United States of America, even if it means using military force.
And the Chinese are helping a lot.
And the Chinese are now helping. We really did isolate the North Koreans more successfully this time. One of the things that people didn't notice, you remember when 20 countries expelled North Korean workers? Well, that was a source of hard currency to the regime. So all of a sudden, we did some things that were really very effective with the regime. And I have to tell you, the former Secretary Tillerson really does have a lot of credit for that. And I think current Secretary Pompeo is showing that he's going about this in the right way, planning the summit very carefully, because the North Koreans will exploit any loophole.
And he, like you, when you were Secretary of State, went ahead right before he was confirmed and paved the way for the president to meet with Kim Jong-un. What advice do you have for our president when he does sit down with Kim Jong-un?
Well, first of all, don't try to negotiate the details with Kim Jong-un. Leave that to people who understand all the nuances of this situation. There are other countries that have interest here. Japan, for instance, has interest here. South Korea, of course, has interest here. So that's the first thing. It really recognizes that others are at stake. Secondly, don't be anxious about moving American military forces. American military forces are a stabilizing force, not just on the Korean Peninsula, but in the region as a whole. And finally, never forget what the nature of this regime really is. This is a regime that murdered an American citizen just a little while ago, a regime where the leader had his half-brother murdered in Malaysia using VX gas, a brutal regime, human rights violations, a death camp for its own citizens. Don't forget the nature of the regime.
Where would you have this?
Well, probably, certainly not in Washington, certainly not in the White House. There's been some talk of maybe doing something close to the DMZ, to the demilitarized zone between the two Koreas. I think that would be all right. Geneva is always a possibility. They tend to do these things. I think it's less important where they have it, although obviously the symbolism is an issue. It just has to be very well prepared.
Sure.
And I think the fact that Secretary Pompeo, when he was CIA director, was able to go to Pyongyang and we didn't even know it, that's a good sound.
Well, he was a
sign.
top spy.
Yeah, yes.
Tell us a little bit about your new book.
Well, my co-author and I, Amy Siegert, who is a professor at Stanford, and we taught a school in business, in the business school, taught a course in the business school. We didn't have any materials to teach about political risk. Businesses are facing multiplying political risk. Just think about, would you have thought even a year or 2 years ago that because a great power is behaving badly, that would be Russia, interfering in American elections, using a social media platform, now that's a political risk to those companies. And so the kinds of political risks are multiplying. If you have long supply chains and we're in a trade war, that's a political risk. And oh, by the way, somebody with a cell phone can sink your stock price. Ask United Airlines about that.
So it's so interesting because so now you're saying if you're a business person, don't shut off your political mind. Exactly. You have to get resources. So, for example, if someone comes out to the documentary at SeaWorld on Blackfish and you're invested in SeaWorld, it's a public company, that stock dropped. If you weren't paying attention to what this documentary could do, you'll lose a lot of money.
And a low-budget documentary film. It took very little to make that film, and it almost crashed SeaWorld. And so CEOs, the top of the company, have to be constantly vigilant about this. You know, one of the problems with political risk is nobody ever gets praise for stopping something that didn't happen. Right? And so your political risk people sometimes you feel like they're crying wolf. Listen to them. Get them into the boardroom, get them into the C-suite, be personally responsible as a CEO for understanding the risk environment, because in this geopolitical environment, those risks are coming from multiple sources.
In times like this, when you see the Iran deal up in the air and the North Korean in there, do you want to be in the fray or glad you're not in the fray?
I'm really glad to be a professor at Stanford again. And it's good to be able to comment on these things and help the American people understand them. But I'll tell you, people should recognize the pressures that the folks actually making these decisions face every day, and we need to thank them. I just want to say one other thing. That montage was thrilling, of that moment about Osama bin Laden. I was the National Security Advisor on September 11th, and I just want to say on this anniversary of his death, thank you, thank you, thank you to the men and the women who protected us for all of those years, and especially to those brave people who got him.
And Gina Haspel has to defend her actions during that time in the CIA. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction is, if you were not in a position of authority on September 11th, you have no idea the pressures that we faced to try and make sure that this country wasn't attacked again.
I'm offended
walk a mile in our shoes and you'll understand some of the things that...
So you're almost offended when people are judging her?
Well, I am offended that people who were not there and who didn't have to make the tough decisions now want to second guess. I think that, look, we're an open society. People can debate. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fine professionals who kept us safe deserve our praise, not our criticism.
Check out her brand new book. It is called Political Risk. Condoleezza Rice, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure to be with you.
I'll talk to you more on radio.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Straight ahead on this Tuesday, Todd Pyro is live in West Virginia ahead of the big Republican debate tonight on Fox. He's having breakfast with friends. You'll see it next.
Plus, Mother's Day right around the corner. If you need the perfect gift, it looks like pearls could be an option. How about a pearl necklace for 87% off? Mega morning deals exclusively for Fox and Friends viewers.
Back, we have some quick headlines. A driver with a truck full of potato chips gets lost for 4 days in the wilderness, but doesn't need a single chip. Jacob Cartwright trying to make a delivery when his GPS sent him the wrong way, trapping him in the snow and mud. He walked 36 miles to safety in Oregon, completely dehydrated and possibly frostbitten. When asked why he didn't eat any chips, Cartwright said he didn't want to damage property that didn't belong to him. A teenager is called racist for wearing a traditional Chinese dress to prom. Utah high school student Keziah Dom tweeting her pictures and receiving hundreds of angry comments. Many people saying they were offended by this pose. You'll see it right there with her hands folded together, but she's standing up to her critics, tweeting in part. Now you see her tweet, "I'm simply showing my appreciation to their culture. I'm not deleting my post because I've done nothing but show my love for the culture." Look at your headlines. Downstairs to you.
All right, Jill, thank you very much. Meanwhile, let's go out to West Virginia because there's a big Fox debate tonight, 6:30 Eastern Time. Todd Pyra is live at the diner, taking the pulse of the people.
That's right. Hey, Todd.
Hey guys, yeah, Brett and Martha are going to have it for you at 6:30. They're going to be vetting the Republican primary candidates to run against Joe Manchin. But we're going to do a little vetting right now. I want you to meet Bob. He served in the Marines. Thank you, sir, for your service. Also a retired railroad conductor. And you say you're undecided. You're going to watch the debate tonight to figure out who you like. But you say it has to be somebody who supports the president's agenda. Why do you say that?
Well, because I think we need unification is strength. And I don't think we're going to get anything done, which is evident already with what's happened with the Congress and the House and the Republican Congress, especially not being able to unify themselves and move forward with the president's agenda. We all got to get on the same page and work together like a football team trying to get to the goal line if we're going to score a touchdown.
But with that in mind, despite all that, you say you are still likely to vote for Joe Manchin. Quickly, why?
Joe Manchin has done a lot of good for West Virginia. He's tried and true, and he grew up here in Marion County. He's a friend of the family, and he's a good person. And so we're not going to throw him out, baby out with the bathwater, you know.
All right, Bob. Now, while everybody here is a friend, Bob and Dave disagree on this point. And what's funny, David is a Democrat, registered Democrat. He can't vote in this upcoming primary, but he says you're looking for the person who supports the president's agenda and who's going to go against Joe Manchin. Why do you say that?
Yeah, because Joe Manchin let us down when it come to our tax reform. And when he voted against that, I have 4 children working, all with, I have 4 people, 3 of them out of state and 1 in-state, and none of them know what a 40-hour work week is.
Because they all work more than 40.
Work on 40 hours, and it's just I just hope that it just does better, and with the tax reform, they're seeing a difference, and that's why I'm voting against Manchin. That's just I'm a registered Democrat. I like him. He's done a lot for West Virginia, but most West Virginians don't want handouts. They want something to do, and they want people to do stuff for America.
David, Bob, thank you very much. We're going to toss on it back to New York City. Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
And Steve. All right.
Thanks, Todd.
Todd, thank you very much. All right, meanwhile, need the perfect gift for Mother's Day, just about a week away. How about pearls for 90% off? And there are even more Mega Morning deals you're going to hear next.
All right, wonderful. Let's check in with another mom, Sandra Smith. What's coming up in your show, Sandra?
Good morning, Ainsley. Good morning, everybody. Well, Robert Mueller's questions for President Trump leaked to the New York Times. We'll have fresh reaction from the White House coming up. And it's debate day in West Virginia. Where do the candidates stand? We have a live report in moments. America
on the corner, and we have some great gift ideas with even better savings.
Megan Meany is here, back with more morning deals, mega morning deals, and we are very soft today.
What are you wearing?
This is one
ladies?
of them. This is called the Softie, and is it soft or
very
what?
Soft.
This is velour inside and
Jim.
out. It is ridiculously cozy. A family in Minnesota makes these, so they know what it's like to be cold and need to warm up. What I love about this is it comes in all sizes, all the way up to 3X, you guys. So we have plus sizes, small sizes, and everything in between for $29. You can be as cozy as you've ever been, and that's 69% off. And you can run out of the house in leggings if you want to wear them in the house, you know, like PJs. But then look at me, I have leggings on over here.
And it's stretchy.
And then you can leave the house in leggings and shoes, and you can sort of have outdoor wear as well. See, very cute.
Perfect. All right,
so cozy.
To remember Barbara Bush, we all love our pearls,
That's
right? These
that's
are so pretty,
They're
and
making a
every
comeback
mom loves
because
them.
of Barbara. So these are freshwater pearls. They're called doghouse pearls. They come in all styles here. We have some doubled up necklaces. We have bracelets, studs. They come in this beautiful packaging. So for Mother's Day, you don't have to wrap anything. And look, we've got a few here.
I've always wanted to be a
Janice is
hand
showing you.
model.
Typically, these are $95 and upwards of that, all the way to $450. But today, you're getting 87% off. So that's $25 up to $90.
Love it.
Beautiful doghouse pearls. Don't forget, Mega Morning Deals is the icon you're looking to click on. Marula oil is the hottest anti-aging ingredient out there. It's like plastic surgery in a bottle without the surgery.
Plastic surgery in a
It is
bottle?
oil. It's called oil, but it's not greasy. It hydrates, it moisturizes. It also increases the effectiveness of your other anti-aging products because your skin is ready to take them in.
Okay.
And
What's the
we have
price?
hair products as well as skin. And this is the original oil right here, $14 to $19. That is a huge savings of 71%. This is the original product made from marula nuts. Okay.
How about this?
If you have wireless charging capabilities on your cell phone, this is a wireless charging pad. What I like about it is that it's kind of sleek looking, you know, so you just pick a spot in the house, you're all set, you don't deal with cords, you rest it on there, a little LED light tells you $12, and this is a smokeless grill. No smoke in the air when you grill in the house.
Head to our website. It's foxandfriends.com for more information on all these products.
Get your softie.
More Fox and Friends.